Hey, everybody. This episode is another in the short series of career development episodes that I'm doing. I'm calling them career advice from a non-career coach because I'm not a career coach, but I do get asked a lot of career questions. And this episode is all about the big question, how do I know it's time to leave? Leave my job, leave this career path, leave this industry. How do I know it's time? So I talk about the signs to recognize that may tell you it's time to make a change, why it's so hard to make the change, and a little bit of truth telling about why it's so important to override the fear and anxiety to make the necessary career move. So I hope you enjoy. So I'm back with another episode on career development. I decided to do a few episodes on career development because even though I am not a career coach, I do get asked a lot of questions about building one's career because I work with people in the professional setting. The first episode I did was about networking. If you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. It's a short and sweet episode. It's about 15 minutes or so. It's episode 18, and then come back and listen to this one. So this time I want to focus on that big question of your career. When is a good time to leave? That means leaving a job, leaving an industry, or leaving an entire phase of your career for something totally different. I want to share with you some signs that it might be time to leave. And then we're going to talk about why it's so hard to do it, even when we know we need to, and why it's so important when we recognize that it is time. So first, some signs that it might be time to leave. And like always, I give you a smattering of things to consider, things that I have personally experienced, things I have seen my clients experience. This does not encompass all of the potential ways that you could decide that it's time to leave, but this is pretty representative of many people's experience. So sign number one, you've plateaued. You're just no longer being challenged. Your skill set is maxed out and you're doing the same things over and over again with no new learning. You're just kind of on repeat. You're answering the same questions. The problems that you're solving are the same over and over again. You're doing nothing new and you're probably bored. And if you're bored, it might mean it's time to go. Let me tell you, when I'm bored, that is my sign that what I am doing is done and I need to find a different way to approach what I'm doing or choose something else entirely. That's sign number one. Sign number two. Your work brings more frustration, anxiety, dread, or even fear than it does joy and enthusiasm and motivation. You're feeling perpetually demotivated. We make fun of, oh, I gotta go to work today. And oh, I'm not at my computer and I'm just wiggling my mouse. And oh, this person is calling me on Teams or Slack way too early. We make fun of all those things. They're supposed to be for entertainment, but those are actually real people's experience. That they feel anxiety or frustration or dread or even fearful about what they're doing at work. And it's quite sad to me that we could spend 40 hours, probably more, a week in a place that we don't like being in or that we dread being in, and it drains our batteries. And it takes more to smile than it does to scowl. This could be for a number of reasons. This dread, it could be the workload. It could be your boss. It could be that the environment's highly competitive or it's unforgiving or relentless. There could be all kinds of reasons. When I was in my early 20s, I had a boss who was not nice. She was very condescending and took every opportunity to make me feel foolish for asking the questions that I was asking, saying things like, it's not that hard, or you should be able to figure this out. And it wasn't done in sort of a motivating way, like, hey, you can figure this out. I trust you. Go give it a try. It wasn't that. It was, you should know how to do this. So I cried a lot and I had a really nauseous stomach every time I'd have to talk to her. That was a sign that I didn't need to be there. So if you experience any of that and you feel it physically in your body will tell you what's up. If you feel it physically in your body, that might be a sign to leave. Sign number 3, you're not being seen for the talent that you are. You're not being given the work that you want. You're not being offered opportunities or challenges. You feel like you're not trusted. You're not recognized or acknowledged. You're not feeling like a partner or a peer. Let me tell you, that's not a you thing. That's a company thing. That's a cultural thing. That can happen a lot to women. It can happen a lot to introverts in an environment where extroversion is rewarded, where like big talk and loud mouths and performative achievement are rewarded, but you're just sort of sitting back and doing excellent work, but you're not boasting about it, you might not be seen as the talent that you are. This can happen to people of color. This can happen to people with disabilities. They get overlooked. And if you are not being seen for the talent that you are and you're being overlooked, again, it is not a you problem because it is the company's culture. It's the kind of behavior that it tolerates, but it does affect you. And it takes away your opportunity for growth. One of the ways that I was being overlooked was I wasn't being given feedback that was something I could do something with. It was like, no, you're doing great. Or, hey, you need to just communicate better. Like none of that feedback was helpful for me. I was missing out on critical, specific, actionable feedback to help me grow. That's one of the hidden ways that you might be overlooked for the talent that you are. So if any of that is happening, consider that it might be time to leave. Sign number 4, you're treading water. By this, I mean that you feel like you are never able to get ahead of the work, and you spend so much time doing work that you have no time to reflect, be creative, be strategic, build relationships. You have no time to just think, and you feel like you're barely staying afloat. You're just checking boxes and getting stuff out the door. Now, this is not the same as companies that have busy seasons and busy times of the year, because there are companies that have seasonality to them where you're just kind of grinding or you're trying to push something out into the world and you're on the home stretch and you got to work until it's just done. That's temporary. That's situational. I'm talking about companies that don't know how to prioritize. And so everything is important and you can't say no to anything and you can't make choices about how you run your day or your team's day. When companies behave like that, they are running on scarcity. They're grasping for every bit of money for every client. And the belief is that there is never enough. And the way this trickles down to people is that everyone feels like they're fighting for their lives and that the only way to survive is to do more. And there's no such thing as enough. You're just doing more. So if you feel like you're just treading water and just trying to stay afloat, and there's no end in sight, that might be a sign it's time to leave. Sign number 5, values clash. You could have a values clash between you and the company, you and the management, or you and just the mission of the organization. This could mean that what your company stands for or what it puts out into the world no longer fits with you or isn't important to you anymore. Or maybe it wasn't ever important to you to begin with. So it makes it harder for you to care about what you're doing. A values clash can also mean that one or more of the actual company values, like those bright and shiny values they put on the walls or they have on the intranet. I don't know if intranet's even a word anymore. If it's not, I've just dated myself. But, they're the company principles, the company pillars, the company values. You might not align with those values. So I'll give you an example. There is a company. We all know it. We've probably all ordered from it because they have same day and overnight delivery, and it's a global company. They have a value of frugality, doing more with less. How this translates real life day to day is that it puts constant pressure on people to scrape by with as little resources as possible and take more work on themselves, and doesn't ever give them the freedom to find resources to help them get their work done. Those resources could be technology or even outside help like a consultant or a vendor to help you do what you need to do and do it better. When I worked in advertising, the unspoken value was profit. And how that translated down the line was that we got bullied. We, meaning marketing for the most part, because we weren't sales. We got bullied and we had to do what the client wanted. We had to do what the salespeople wanted. It made me feel like I was sort of an order taker. Putting the profit over the people was not my value. And I saw, after probably too long, but after maybe 12, 13, 14 years, that was a big clash for me. Big values clash that didn't sit well. So I've just given you 6 potential scenarios that feel pretty clear cut, right? To me, all of these are pretty clear signs. If you were looking from the outside and your friend was telling you about all this stuff and you were like, well, it's pretty clear to me, it's time to go. You don't need to be doing this anymore. But when it's you, it can be a little harder to make that call. See, most of the time when I hear this question, how do I know it's the right time to leave? Is it okay for me to leave? Is now the moment? The person asking the question usually knows the answer. They wouldn't be asking the question if they didn't already have a hunch that it was time to go. What they really want is some reassurance that they're doing the right thing, that it will be okay. But just because we know something is the right thing to do doesn't mean we always do it. Just because we have the information to make smart decisions doesn't mean we make those smart decisions. So why would we stay when, gosh, all of these scenarios I've given you, they sound flippin' miserable? Why would we stay? One of the reasons is because things aren't so terrible that it would warrant us leaving, meaning the pros and the cons kind of feel the same. It's not so bad that you're hurting, but it's also not so good that you're loving life. Right? So you have this, well, it's not terrible, but also you're demotivated and kind of disappointed a lot. But also you like your peers and your colleagues, but also you're drowning in the work. So it's this push pull because you can't decide whether the pros or the cons win out. And so we get stuck in this sort of career decision purgatory. That's one reason that we can stay in a job. And not for nothing, we'll probably stay in relationships for that same reason. We'll probably stay in a city that maybe we don't love and want to leave for the same reason because the pros and the cons kind of weigh the same. We can also stay in a job that has expired out of fear. You can call it fear, you can call it anxiety, you can call it whatever sort of emotion you want, but they all sort of end up in the same bucket of life's most pain in the ass emotional blockers. And then we spend so much more time than we need to catastrophizing the unknown. We catastrophize the unknown. What confuses me about this is that we can come to a situation assuming that it will not work out before assuming that it will. Meaning, if I think about leaving this job, and I've been at this company for 5 years and I've been making my way up, and if I leave, and what if it's not good? And what if it doesn't work out? And what if my boss is worse? And what if the company is terrible? Like, we assume that when we make a decision, it won't work before we assume that it will. That's a protective mechanism because no one wants to get caught off guard by failure. Now, I don't have a 1, 2, 3 step-by-step to quell that fear because I don't, because nobody does. And if they do, run from the building screaming because they don't. But I will give you a few things to consider. And this is where you have to do the inner work and gut check which of the fears that you feel is true. What's a true risk and what is just that person that's inside you trying to stay safe? Catastrophizing is a survival mechanism. When we're in survival, we will do whatever we need to in order to feel safe. And sometimes that means sticking with something beyond its expiration date. I will say that again. When we're in survival, we will do whatever we need to do to feel safe. But what if we're not in danger? What if managing your career success is not a dangerous experience? What if starting a new industry isn't dangerous, it's exciting? What if starting your own business or maybe going freelance is not dangerous, but liberating? What if changing your career entirely, like going from advertising to owning my own business and people development, speaks to your soul in a way that your work never has before? Here's the thing. We don't know. We don't know what it will be like to leave. We don't know what a new company will be like or what a new career path will feel like. We don't know how it will feel to start over or to put yourself out there in a new way. You will never know the outcomes. Things will fail. You will have setbacks. Does that have to mean it's over? Maybe, but maybe not. You don't need to know everything to make a move. You just need to know enough to begin. So when you're planning your career, that thing that you get out of bed in the morning to do every single day, why would you hesitate to make a change that could make it better? And when you make a change like this, you don't have to do everything all at once. Deciding to leave your job or a long-term career It doesn't have to be a flip the table, I'm out of here moment. It can be this quiet internal choice that has a path, like a step-by-step, a planned path that you've created. You can plan it. You can give yourself time to set yourself up financially. You can set up a schedule and start researching options or setting up networking conversations. You can create a path for yourself to make your exit smooth and easeful instead of chaotic and frantic. Maybe you outsource things. You hire a career coach. You spend some money on a resume writer. You hook up with a recruiter. Maybe you talk to your financial planner. You create a financial plan so you're not leaving your mortgage and your responsibilities hanging. Because no one said you have to be irresponsible when changing your career. Sometimes when this question comes up about leaving a job, leaving a career, changing careers, whatever it looks like for you, it's like, well, I can't just let everything go. I have responsibilities. And it's like, no one said you had to let go of your responsibilities. We're grown adults. We have people relying on us. We have responsibilities and bills to pay. We have a life we want to live and a certain level of comfort that we've gotten accustomed to. And there's nothing wrong with that. But why does having the career that you want or the job that excites you or being in an organization that like motivates you, why does that have to be mutually exclusive with your responsibilities? And, if you don't have the money to spend on a coach or a resume writer or whatever, that's fine. Just sit down with an Excel spreadsheet and create a plan for yourself. Write down all the questions that you have and all the information that you need to gather in order for you to feel as assured and comfortable and prepared as you can. And then systematically, methodically gather that information and find ways to answer those questions. When we are making decisions that can have a disruptive effect on our lives, which changing jobs does, we have to look at them responsibly. So take your time, make your changes thoughtfully, do your research, ask questions, but give yourself the chance to learn and stop jumping ahead 15 steps where you're imagining that potential failure. Start at step 1. Take the first most logical step, that first domino, and see what comes back. See how you feel, and then take the next step. We make a choice, we see what comes back, we make another choice. So if you are asking the question, is it my time to leave? Well, I hope I've given you some things to consider and some things to reflect on so that you can make a conscious and responsible choice about the direction that you want to go. That's all for now. I'll see you back here in another 2 weeks. Until then, take good care of yourself, lots of love, and big energy.